How's it going, you guys? It's Scott with Everyday Home Repairs, and today I want to walk you through how to remove some old flooring. Now, this isn't a bathroom remodel that I'm doing, but this is valid for kitchens or hallways or anything where you just have old flooring or multiple layers of flooring like I have here. So I'm preparing to install some vinyl plank, and you probably already know the subfloor actually is the critical part of that install. It needs to be completely smooth and ready for the vinyl plank to go on, or you just feel imperfections poking up through the vinyl plank, and then you do all that work for just a really poor install. So this part's critical to get down to solid subfloor and prep for your new flooring surface. Knowing that I'll be putting in new vinyl plank, I want to remove this trim, but I do want to reuse it. So I'll take my time, I'll score the top of it so I can remove it in one piece and not damage the drywall. Using my flat bar, I'll slowly go across, pull it off, and then label each trim piece for future reference. Then I'll do the same thing going around the rest of the room, but this is overall a pretty small job as I just have 6 different pieces of trim. Now, one thing's going to help you out when you're pulling that trim, make sure you're using a nice flat bar. That increased surface area when you're prying on the trim is going to help you reduce the chances of damaging your trim. So although I like my little cat's paw here, this is not the right tool for the job, and the surface area is so much less that you'll be able to remove the trim, but you might split it in half. So even after you finish up all your trim pieces, just to make sure you're completely done, go through and make sure any of those left behind nails are removed from the drywall. Now, moving on to the toilet, I'm going to start with the tank by shutting off the water, flushing the water out of the tank, and then removing the rest of the water with a sponge. Once the water is removed, then I'll remove the 3 mounting bolts that attach the tank to the toilet base. And I set everything in the tank so I don't lose those parts later on. Then I'll remove the hose here that's going to the shutoff valve and remove the tank, setting it off to the side. Moving on to the base now, I'll remove the 2 mounting bolts that attach the toilet to the flange on the floor. Once those are removed, I'll get a good hold on it, pull it off the flange, and then dump the water into this tub to make sure that I don't have any extra water that's going to dump all over the floor. Now I want to remove the old wax ring, just setting myself up so I'll be able to install it after we get the flooring in place. Once that's all removed, then I'll take a 55-gallon drum liner, wrap it around the toilet, and then take it out of the room. Now don't forget, clean up with some shop towels, and then put those shop towels in your drain pipe, ensuring nothing's going to go down the drain during demo. Now I'm also going to loosen up the flange here, the toilet flange from the subfloor. That'll make a little more sense here in just a little bit. But then a few more things that I want to remove is things like vents. I'll take that off. And then I also have like a commercial toe kick on the vanity that I'll pull off there. And then the last thing is I'm just going to remove this threshold as I'll be installing a new one when I install the new vinyl plank flooring. So now we have toilet out, trim out, vent, threshold. You can make the call in terms of how many things you need to remove depending on what you're trying to do. Because I'm trying to put down vinyl plank flooring, I kind of want a clean slate and make sure I do it right. Now here's where your paths can kind of diverge a bit. You want to do a test sample on your flooring to see how easy it's coming up. If you can pull it out and everything's removed, the glue's very easy to remove, awesome. That is the best path to go on. But if you start to pull it up and it's leaving behind a ton of paper and glue, it's extremely hard to get out. Even after using a heat gun, you're having a really hard time removing that. You're going to need to go down the other path, which is assess what subflooring your floor is on. For me, I can see I have a 1/2 inch of subfloor that is on top of my 3/4 inch subfloor. So I know I can actually remove that 1/2 inch subfloor. All the flooring is going to stay attached to that, and then that's going to get me back down to my 3/4 inch subfloor, and then I can make the right call of what I need to put on top of that for my vinyl plank. So I'm going to try a bit to remove those 2 layers, but something tells me I'll be removing the actual subfloor. So it's always best to have a mask on or a respirator and also eye protection. You don't know what's in this old flooring, so it's just better to be safe. Now with my utility knife, I'm going to cut off the loose flooring and then start to use a heat gun with a stiff, small putty knife See how hard this paper is to remove. That's really going to be the determining factor whether I remove all the plywood subfloor or if I just take the floor out and scrape everything clean. So again, I'm kind of torn here whether or not that's going to be clean enough, but I'm going to do a little bit more because sometimes if there's moisture around like that toilet flange, the glue will actually loosen up. But as you get further along where there's no water damage, the glue is going to be harder to remove. So I'll keep chipping away, but I made the call, it's just better to cut it out. So I'm going to use my rear handle Makita set to 1/2 inch depth, the depth of the subfloor. Cut across, and then I'll finish the cut with my oscillating tool and just a wood blade. And then I'm going to cut a square around that flange so I can remove this larger section of plywood and then address that smaller piece of plywood after I get the larger removed. Now using a 24-inch breaker bar, it actually would be better to have a 36 or a 42 just to get a little bit more leverage, but this will work for the smaller job. And then you'll see I'm using a small 12-inch, what's called a cat paw, to just pry up all the nails to get the floor completely clean. So overall, not too bad getting this first section out. Now I'll cut another line and go to the next section. So you just kind of work your way across the floor, and depending on how many nails are in this 1/2 inch plywood for you, will depend on how big of a section you can take out. And then we'll just take this larger section out and continue moving on after removing all these nails. Now, as you're going about removing the subfloor, if one section's a little hard to remove, maybe there's more nails than you bargained for, just cut a smaller piece, make it more manageable, keep progressing across the floor. And then you can see on the left-hand side here, I am going to have to go up to a vanity, which can be a little bit tricky to get a cut all the way up to the vanity. So I do have a little bit of a secret weapon here, which is a specialty saw that helps you get right up to the vanity. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in just 1 minute. So I'm using my oscillating tool to complete those cuts. And then this will be the last section that I need to remove. And again, there's no shortage of nails here, so I'm just going to cut another line, make it in 2 sections so I can easily pluck out the rest of this 1/2 inch subfloor. And if you have something like this vanity, which I'm going to keep in place, just be a little careful as you're removing that section. You don't want to damage the vanity or anything else that you want to reuse. Now you just really have to put in the work to get the subfloor where you want it. Now the 24-inch pry bar or breaker bar, I'd probably go with the 36 or 42 if you have it. The extra leverage is going to come in handy when you're trying to pull up that subfloor depending on how many nails you have securing it down. Now that secret weapon is called a toe kick saw, and it's just for that. It's to cut flush with a toe kick and cut subfloor like we did. It saves you a ton of time, and if you have any type of projects like this, it's probably worth the investment. You can either get it at a local Harbor Freight, or if you check down below this video, you'll see our Amazon store, and you can cross-reference to the power tool section, where below all the Makita power tools, you will find that exact toe kick saw. Now the removal of the subfloor is part of a much larger project, so click right here if you want to see the complete DIY friendly bathroom remodel for a budget of $1,500, where we'll take you from start to finish on that project. So thanks for joining me on this video, and we'll catch you on the next one. Take care.